Hello. Right, we'll try again. This time we're at the right track, which is Le Mans. So we'll try and do a little guide of driving around here. Hopefully it'll be of some use to someone. So, out of the last little chicane, starting a new lap. Obviously, full acceleration. Right the way over to the left. Now, the first curb that you're coming up to here is, as far as I can tell, completely flat. So you can drive over it as much as the track limits will allow you to. So get yourself as far to the left as you can with your right-hand wheels still within the white line. And then turn across. And the aim is to get as close to the right-hand side as you possibly can. Now, the second your car straightens out and you're traveling in a straight line rather than turning is when you go into full-on brake mode. Again, you want to be as far to the right as you can, but if you're not quite over to the right, don't try and turn while you're braking. Just keep everything as straight as possible. Get all the way down to second gear in this car. Turn in quite late. Cut across here, but keep your right-hand wheels within the white line, of course. And then here, just a slight lift of the accelerator, and then go back on ever so slightly just to stabilize. Not full acceleration, just enough to kind of stabilize the rear of the car so it doesn't move around too much. With this new tire model, it's unfortunately quite tricky to do a lot of this stuff, but it is possible with a bit of practice. So again, clip that one, and then sort of feed the power in as smoothly, progressively as you can, and use all the exit curb here, again, with your wheels inside the white line, until you can get onto full acceleration all the way down this little hill. Just try and make this as straight as possible. Now here, you want to try and stay as far to the right as you can here and aim for those little red curves. Always remember to try and keep looking a long way into the distance rather than right in front of your car, because it's quite difficult. This corner, whilst it's easily flat out, it does tend to throw you over to the left, and ideally you want to be on the right here in readiness for the left-hand corner. So again, as soon as your car is straight, hopefully as close to the right as you can get it, you want to brake down as hard as, well, pretty hard, down into third gear, I think it is. I can't change gear because it's a bloody stupid thing that won't let me. And then down to third, nice steady speed, and turn in and get as close as you can to this curb on the left. You can kind of touch it, but don't go too far into it because it will bounce you around and you'll possibly have one of these wonderful new moments of sudden oversteer. And back on the accelerator, going back around here. This curb again, you used to be able to just drive over it, but that seems to throw you all over the place now. So just try and get it so that your right-hand wheels are just on the right-hand side of this white line here. So you are technically using the curb, but not too much of it. And then doing that, you can just about accelerate all the way up here, but there's no harm in just giving a slight lift if you feel a little bit unsure. Now this is a really tricky corner. It's very easy to get track limits here, but you'll probably be in, I think, fourth gear when you're doing this properly. And I do tend to go onto the curb on the left for this one. And a dab of brake is all you need, but you do need to turn in a lot sooner than you think you do, if that makes any sense. So if you turn in when it kind of looks right, you will tend to miss this apex. Now you can cut this. Ideally you want to cut this so that your left-hand wheels are just on the left of this white line here. Oh, don't go backwards, you fool. And then drift out to about here. Any further than that and you'll get a track limit. If you do start to get a track limit there, it's one of those places where you can just quickly brake and it will cancel it out, but it's still really annoying because if you're trying to do a qualifying lap or anything like that, as soon as that happens, your whole lap is buggered, so to speak. Yeah, flat down here, obviously. Just try and straighten out as much as you possibly can. This car's got really long gears, so barely getting to 6th along here. But yeah, put it in 6 for the sake of a demonstration. So we're going flat out along here. Now this section to the left of this white dotted line on the left tends to be really, really bumpy. So get as close to here as you can, as close to that sort of red line, which I think is the edge of the track. Using that bit doesn't seem to work out terribly well for me. It's very, very bumpy, like I say, and it doesn't seem to really gain you anything. So I tend to position the car about here, and then for a braking reference, If you look on the left curb here, in between the 150 and the 200. Is that 200? Fucking gears. Bloody gears, sorry. Yeah, in between the 200 and the 100, there's a little orange bit on the left-hand guardrail thing. As soon as you've gone past that, you can start to brake. And I would go down to 3rd gear in as straight a line as possible, and then come off the brake, cut across this curb here, and then brake again in a straight line again as much as possible, and now down into 2nd gear. Cut through this curb, drift out wide. You can go slightly beyond this white line on the left there and use this curb on your exit and your full acceleration now, and then drifting all the way back out here. I'll try and demonstrate next lap at a little bit more speed. Sometimes it's more difficult to do things slowly than it is quickly. Yep, flat down here of course. And then right the way over to the right here, you seem to be able to use this bit no problem, and brake just before the 100 board. The same technique as the previous one, where you go down to 3rd gear, cut across this curb whilst you're off the brakes, and then back on the brakes, down to 2nd, cut this. Don't go out too wide here, that's about the limit, otherwise you'll get track limits. But the idea is just to try and get as smooth and flow through that series, both of those chicanes really, as you possibly can. And then obviously full acceleration again. Alright, nice little 1st gear corner coming up here. So yeah, if you move yourself to the left, and then you want to be in as straight a line as possible for the braking. So you follow the curvature of the curve there, but point your car out towards that little house. See, there's a cluster of buildings, the one on the far right. And as soon as you've gone over the curb and you're about to hit the sort of apex of this little kink, is when you want to start to brake. But because of your angle, if you've got the car angle like this, you will brake in a straight line out to the side edge here, all the way down to 1st gear, and then turn in, cutting this as much as you can, and then getting on the power as soon as you possibly can. Now again, that in the other video I talked about that kind of 2-stage thing with the accelerator, where you put it down say 50% and then the other 50% shortly after to sort of stabilize the back. That works quite well there, but if you just slam your foot down, you will just spin with this new tyre model. So you need to put the power on as smoothly as you can. You can either use the 2-stage thing or just slowly ease it down. When I say slowly, I don't mean lethargically slow, obviously, but, you know, smoothly, as smoothly and quickly as you can. And then up here, again, just try and straighten everything as much as you possibly can. Get up to 6th again in this car. Then move yourself over to the left, and where this little green section of tarmac is, I change down a gear, a dab of brake, and then turn. But as you're turning, you want to pretty much coast, or I do as well, at least. Because if you're accelerating or trying to brake while you're turning, then the likelihood is you'll have one of these snap oversteer moments. But if you can kind of angle the car in towards this, it's very difficult to describe because you have to do it very quickly because you're traveling very fast at this point. But down a dab of brake, down a gear, and then angle it into here, sort of coast across this curb section, and then as soon as the car is straight, once again, very, very heavy braking down to, in my case, 2nd gear. Turn in quite early here, and then you want to try and get as close to or on that curb if you can, and then accelerate out. Now you can go on the sand here a little bit, not really a benefit, so avoid it if you can, but if need be, rather than trying to tighten your steering, just drift onto the sand just a tiny little bit. Then back over to the left, and then you've got in between these two Goodyear signs on the left, there's a little patch of, I hope you can see it, like a patch of sand there. That's what I use as a braking reference. And again, down to 1st gear, kind of braking just next to this curb, and turn in, and again two-stage power, smooth power, right the way out. Use that little bit of green astroturfy stuff. And off we go again. Now this, coming up, is the pig of this track. Particularly with this tyre model, it's incredibly easy to have one of these snap oversteer moments now. The only sign that I can tell that you get that one of those is due is a bit of a tyre squeal sound. So that's when you're kind of approaching the limit and you really don't want to go any quicker than that or do anything erratic. If you can hear that sound, just try and stay within yourself. Smoothness is key as always, but you're better losing a little bit of time, going a little bit too slowly rather than really trying to go too quick and making a slight error or two. So yeah, coming in here, stay over to the left where the DHL sign is here. You can see the shadow across the track. That's where I brake. And in this car, we go down from 6th, I think it is, down to 4th here. So you're in 4th. And then just through very gentle and smooth dabs of acceleration, keep it fairly close to this curb. Drift out, but not really any further than that because you want to get back over here. All in one's fluid motion. Turn into this one. Right to the inside, but don't go onto that curb because it will bounce you across. This is a case of going as near to the wall as you dare. As soon as you hear that rumble, that's more than close enough. Back across, again, very close to the curb. Maybe touch it, but don't ride it properly because it will bounce you off. Here, I stay in 4th gear again, but a bit more brake needed here because this is a slower corner. Sounds like you're going, you should really change down again at this point, but for me, 4th seems to work pretty well. It keeps things nice and smooth. Again, follow it round. Much as far over to the right as you can get, and then as soon as you're going straight, down a gear, dab a brake, down to 3rd, and then you can cut this one to straighten things out as much as you can. Again, you have to keep a tyre within the white lines at all times. Really hard to get that bit right, so it's just a case of practice. It's a shame you can't do the thing like an iRacing where you can just do that section over and over again, but alas, we cannot. And down here, slightly over to the right, brake down to 3rd, you'll be in a higher gear just before... bloody thing. Yeah, just before that triangular section there, you want to brake. And then trail the brake off as you turn in here. Cut, straighten, cut, and then again straighten, straight back on the brake into 2nd gear, cut as much as you can, and then a nice smooth line into there, and then up again for another lap. Okay, so trying a slightly quicker lap now, but still attempting to talk. So out on the left, into the right. A smooth braking down to 2nd gear. Close to the right as we can get. And then hard on the brakes down to 3rd. Back on the power, just clip that slightly. No need to lift there. Really hard to do this. Yeah, up to 6th gear, looking out for the little orange bit on the side of the track. 5, 4, 3, turn in a bit, and then brake again 2nd. Not quite sure why I got the little green track limits thing there, but it didn't seem to count for anything. To 6. And just before the 100, 5, 4, 3, start to turn, off the brake, on again, down to 2nd. Like I say, you just have to try and do that as smoothly as you possibly can. Turn the steering wheel as little as you can. Look through the corner as much as you can. And don't try and go too quick. Okay, just before though. Back started to go a little bit then. Bit dodgy. I have put the ABS down to 6. It's just the default setup there, but I've just turned the ABS down to 6, so maybe leave that at 7 perhaps. So dab a brake down to 5th, so it goes through there, hard on the brakes. Smoothly back on the power. Down to 1st. Smoothly back on the power. Okay, tough bit coming up now. I think we'll get into 6th. Down to 4th. On the powers. Feathering the throttle. Have a brake there. And down to 3rd. Main thing there is to try and keep within yourself. There we go. It's not the quickest lap, but apart from that slight little moment on the brakes, it's kind of a doable pace there, I would say. But I'll put another video of another lap on now, which is a little bit quicker than that one, a little bit closer to my limit at least. So hopefully there's stuff there for you to learn from, and for the people that are doing the BDSM, I'll see you this evening on the day this is posted. So thank you very much. Ta-ta.
Time 402.77.
Ugh.